Let's start by understanding what's actually happening right now. US President Donald Trump has reportedly issued a 48-hour ultimatum to Iran. Now, an ultimatum is basically a final warning, a deadline to take action or face serious consequences. In this case, the demand is clear. Iran must reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Now, you might be wondering, why is this such a big deal? Well, the Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important waterways on the planet. It's a narrow passage between the Persian Gulf and the open ocean, but its importance is massive. Around 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this single route. That means if this route gets blocked or restricted, it can disrupt global oil supply almost instantly. And when oil supply is affected, it doesn't just impact one country, it impacts the entire world. Now here's where things get more serious. Reports suggest that Iran has either restricted access or threatened to control movement through this route. And that's exactly why the United States is stepping in. Because from the US perspective, keeping this route open is critical, not just for the American economy, but for global stability as well. But Iran is not backing down either. In response to this ultimatum, Iranian officials have issued strong warnings, stating that any kind of pressure or military action could lead to serious consequences across the Middle East. And this is where the situation becomes extremely sensitive, because we're not just looking at a disagreement. We're looking at a potential conflict between two powerful sides. On one side, you have the United States, one of the world's strongest military powers. And on the other side, Iran, which holds strategic control over a key global oil route. So when both sides refuse to step back, tensions can rise very quickly. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Military readiness, political pressure, and strong statements, all happening at the same time. Now, does this mean war is guaranteed? Not necessarily. But it does mean that the situation is highly unstable, and even a small trigger could escalate things further. That's why the next 24 to 48 hours are being seen as extremely critical, because whatever happens next could decide whether tensions calm down or move towards something much bigger. Now that you understand what's happening, let's talk about why this actually matters, especially if you're living in the United States. Because this isn't just about politics or international conflict. This situation can directly impact your everyday life. And it starts with oil. As tensions between the US and Iran continue to rise, global oil prices are already reacting. We're seeing prices move past the $100 per barrel mark, and that's a big deal. Because oil isn't just something used in industries, it's a core part of daily life. Think about it. Every time you fill up your car, every time goods are transported across the country, every time a product reaches a store, oil plays a role. So when oil prices go up, the effects start spreading everywhere. Gas prices at the pump begin to rise. Transportation becomes more expensive. Shipping costs increase. And eventually, those costs get passed on to consumers. That means higher prices for groceries, higher prices for everyday essentials, and an overall increase in the cost of living. Now here's where it gets even more important. The United States relies on stable global oil supply to keep prices under control. And if a major route like the Strait of Hormuz is disrupted, it can create uncertainty in supply, even if the US has its own production. Because global markets are interconnected, so even a disruption in one region can affect prices everywhere. Now let's talk about inflation. Over the past few years, inflation has already been a concern for many households, and situations like this can make things worse. If energy costs rise, it pushes up the cost of almost everything else. And that puts pressure on families trying to manage their monthly expenses. But here's the key point. This doesn't happen overnight. It builds up over time. At first, you might notice slightly higher gas prices. Then, slowly, other costs begin to rise. And before you know it, everyday living becomes more expensive. That's why experts are watching this situation very closely, because if tensions continue, the economic impact could spread far beyond just the oil industry. So while this may seem like a distant geopolitical issue, it's actually something that could hit close to home, affecting millions of Americans in their daily lives. Now let's take a look at how the financial markets are reacting to all of this. Because when it comes to global tensions, Markets are often the first to respond. And right now, they're already showing signs of stress. As soon as news of rising tensions between the United States and Iran began to spread, investors started to react. Stock markets around the world saw a dip. Now, why does this happen? It all comes down to one simple factor: uncertainty. Markets don't like uncertainty. When investors feel unsure about what's going to happen next, they tend to pull their money out of riskier investments. Things like stocks, tech companies, and emerging markets. And instead, they move their money into safer options, like gold or other stable assets. This shift creates pressure on the stock market. And that's when prices start to fall. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. Historically, during geopolitical tensions or potential conflicts, markets tend to become volatile. That means sudden ups and downs, unexpected drops, and a lot of nervous trading. For everyday people, this can have real consequences. If you have investments in the stock market, retirement funds, savings, or portfolios, you might start seeing fluctuations in value. Sometimes small, sometimes significant. But here's something important to understand. Market reactions are often driven by emotion in the short term and fundamentals in the long term. In simple terms, fear can cause quick drops, even before any real damage has happened. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Investors are reacting to what could happen, not just what has happened. So if tensions continue to rise, we could see even more volatility in the coming days. And that's why analysts and investors are watching this situation very closely, because the direction this takes could influence global markets in a big way. Now, before we wrap this up, there's one more development that's worth paying attention to. At LaGuardia Airport in New York, a plane accident was reported. 2 pilots lost their lives, and several others were injured in the incident. The airport had to be temporarily shut down as emergency teams responded to the situation. Now, while this event is not directly connected to the US-Iran tensions, it adds to the overall sense of uncertainty and concern. Because right now, multiple challenges are unfolding at the same time. Global tensions are rising, markets are reacting, and unexpected incidents are making headlines. And when all of this happens together, it creates a sense that something bigger could be coming. But here's the important part. Not every tense situation leads to conflict. History has shown us that even during high-pressure moments, diplomacy and negotiations can still find a way forward. So while the situation is serious, it's not final. Everything now depends on what happens next. The decisions made in the coming hours, the responses from both sides, could either calm things down or push them further toward escalation. And that's why the next 24 to 48 hours are being watched so closely around the world. So here's the bottom line. Right now, tensions between the United States and Iran are at a critical point. Oil prices are rising, markets are unstable, and uncertainty is spreading globally. But the future of this situation is still unwritten, and that's what makes this moment so important. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think this situation will calm down, or could it turn into something much bigger? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more updates. Thanks for watching, and stay informed.